Hi. Thrilled to be here. I'm starting a timer because I can talk all day also on this topic. So Deanna Bratter, and I think events like this are really important to keep us grounded and to keep us connected. I know that one of the topics that has come up a few times throughout the day is one of balance. And so I wanted to start on the topic of balance and what I often refer to as the myth of balance. So I'm a mom with a full-time career in a corporate setting. I have 3 little kids, and work-life balance has been something that mentors, women, leaders are always talking about. And what balance looked like and felt like to me was, oh wow, my kids need me. I have to prioritize this. Oh my gosh, work's really intense. I have to put in 60 hours. I have to prioritize this. Oh my gosh, I haven't had a haircut in 8 months. I have to prioritize myself. And instead of feeling balanced, I felt like I was constantly being pulled in one other way, and I didn't know what balance looked like or balance felt like. And so someone introduced the concept of integration, and that we should stop thinking about work-life balance and start thinking about work-life integration. And the idea that when I come home from work, I'm not putting on my mom hat, and when I'm at the office, I'm not in my work hat, that I'm bringing my same self, driven by my same purpose and my same values, to everything I'm doing, both at home, at work, at yoga practice, or wherever I am, and really bringing these values together. And I think I was incredibly inspired this morning by the comment around the shift in what values we need as a society, not just in our political culture and climate that we have today, but in the corporate climate, in the business world. And those values of empathy and those values of kindness and those values of resiliency that we need to continue cultivating in ourselves and bringing to the everyday. So when I think about balance, I'm trying to shift into this mindset of integration. And when I think about how I came to be 14 years with some version of this company now today called Danone North America, I think about passion. And where I started from, and this is a funny story that, sort of recounting a little bit of my childhood. When I was 14 years old, living in urban South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area, I went to a county fair, which was sort of a novelty for us. And I was looking at all these animals, the prize chickens and the prize cows, and what made a prize animal was totally mind-blowing to me. And then I walked out of there into the food area and saw rotisserie chickens and the giant lamb. And I just, as a teenager, had this awakening of I never saw or thought about where my food came from. And the next day, much to my parents' non-delight, I became a vegan. And I had this entire shift in how I saw the world. And so I went to college. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to advocate for food, for health, for animals. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that something was sparked in me. And when I made my way out to Colorado, I decided that food was the path. That food was a way to impact both health of people, health of the planet, and sort of bring together what I was most passionate about in life. So I came out here, and at the time, we didn't have as easy access to the internet, I guess, and I went to the library and I looked up all the food companies incorporated in Boulder County, and I just read and researched, and I came across the company, well, I had been familiar with the company of Silk, and the founder, Steve Demos, who really thought that a plant-fed future was going to be the path forward, and I was incredibly inspired. So I applied for every single job they had open over the course of 4 or 5 months, and wrote them a letter about how I was completely unqualified to be the head of sales, but I was really passionate about the product and really, passionate advocate for what they believed in, and they should hire me anyway. So eventually they got tired of hearing from me, and they said, okay, come in, let's talk to you, and let's find a place for you. So that was in 2005, and I joined the company in an entry-level, hourly supply chain position, and have been with this iteration of this company ever since. So Silk was bought within 6 months of my being there by Dean Foods, the largest dairy producer in the United States. So my vegan self, who was all about the plant-fed future, was now confronted with the conventional dairy industry and really having to think about what my opportunity was as an advocate and a passion-driven individual to influence this large-scale business in new ways. So That sort of brings me to the transition of passion to purpose. So I could have left, I could have looked for another company, but I decided to take the passion I had and help influence the change that I thought needed to happen. So could we look to the bridging conventional to organic? Can we look at how conventional acreage can become more regenerative? And so over time, I was able to start, going out there and getting certifications and researching and educating, so my supply chain position became a sustainability-focused position. So from there, really implementing purpose, helping define the purpose of the company, helping create culture, and be that champion for change. So now we're no longer a small, independent, plant-based company. Now we're owned by a large dairy company. Then came a spin-off and the opportunity to be a public, independent company and redefine things once again. And that brings me to the most recent iteration, where 1 year ago, White Wave Foods was purchased by Danone. And Danone is a $24 billion, 100,000 employee global company focused on dairy, but with an interest and a passion around sustainability, around plant-based, and the scale and the means to really drive change in a whole new way. So what does action look like at a scale and sort of a company of that big? So my title is kind of a joke, Sustainable Development Strategy. Well, what does that mean? If we know about sustainable development, it's not just sustainability as we think about it from an environmental perspective, but it's diversity and inclusion, sustainability of people, the communities we impact, thousands of suppliers we touch along the value chain. And so the potential and the impact is huge. And so in action, there's a lot to do. Huge goals have been set globally across the board. And how do we keep a handle on it? How do we ensure that we're creating action and meaningful action? So over the last year, since we integrated, we actually were incorporated as a public benefit corporation, meaning that Danone took the decision for the North American $6 billion business to say it's not going to be just about shareholder return. We're obviously a business and we're here to grow and we're here to make money. But we're going to do it in a way that honors the people and the planet along the way and lives this mission to bring health through food, whatever that looks like for our individual consumer. So as a public benefit corporation, our shareholders now can't come knocking if we make a decision that might not be the clear black and white growth opportunity. And the other piece of that was we decided to become a certified B Corp by 2020. Do we have any B Corps in the room? I bet we do. Yes, look at all those. So for those of you who don't know, B Corps are companies who are certified to a third-party standard. And that standard is about transparency, traceability, and performance against a whole slew of social and environmental factors. So when we heard Marianne speak earlier about voice it, show it, B Corp helps companies be transparent and be accountable to what your numbers look like, good or bad. So here we are, a $6 billion company, over 6,500 employees in the US, most of them, 2/3 of them in manufacturing facilities. And my new job is to take my passion, to take my purpose, and to figure out, can we become a B Corp? So we have till 2020, and in 2018 or 2017, when the company agreed this, we said, all right, let's start the process. Let's see what it looks like. Let's figure out how far we are. I thought, for example, living wage was going to be a really hard one. Are we paying a living wage to every employee? Not so sure. But when we started to do the work, we actually found out we were in a better place than we were. So we went through the process. We actually found out that living wage was one of our strong areas. We found out that we have a lot of work to do in integrating these companies together, the Danone in North America and the purchase of White Wave. And we're doing pretty good as a company. We have a lot of room to grow. So on the year anniversary, we actually announced our B Corp certification, which is pretty incredible, the largest certified B Corp in the world. So what this means, it's pretty awesome. What this means on a practical level is that typically B Corps, service industries, smaller companies who are focused on, can we be the best for the world? Can we be business as a force for good? That big companies can do it too. And I think when we start thinking about scale, we think about our individual purpose, our individual passion. We think about the collective of this natural products industry, especially food and ag, and all of the areas we touch, our colleges and universities who are focused in these areas. And then we start thinking about scale, collectively, what impact do we have? Because once the global $24 billion Danones of the world and the General Mills of the world and the Nestle's of the world start really seeing that purpose-led business that really takes into account our impacts on the planet and our impacts on every individual we touch along the value chain is possible, we're going to be able to create those shifts that we need to cultivate good and true meaningful good. That's not just, hey, we're out here, we're a sustainable company, we're doing great things. It's transparent. You can see what our gender pay gap is as a company. You can see what our parental leave policy is as a company. You can see what the highest executive to the lowest hourly employee gets paid and what the difference is. And we're holding ourselves accountable, not just to being transparent about it, but to improving it over time. And it's inspiring to see so much desire to cultivate, so much desire to start looking at regenerative long-term practices. And I think that when we collectively start seeing the potential in ourselves and in the big companies, we're really going to start seeing this massive shift and this massive tipping toward taking care of every individual and every plant and every acre of land, because we know that we have the power. We have created some of the systems that we feel are broken, both environmentally and politically. And that means that we hold the power to create the systems and to fix these systems that are broken. And so I'm inspired from my 14-year-old vegan self and a plant-fed future all the way through to the largest dairy company providing health through food and yogurt and plant-based alternatives, that we do have the power and that we have the potential. And if we can really start seeing this shift from balance to integration and from passion to purpose and from action to activism and making activism acceptable within large companies, I think that we'll really be leading the movement of change.